Hello, everybody. I'm glad for those of you who can make it. Hopefully, more people start to trickle in soon. So I wanted to play this on stream. I don't really do that much gameplay footage these days, but this one I thought would really be good for a stream. So this is the Old World Blues mod for Hearts of Iron 4. And I kind of got bored with the old, with just kind of the normal campaigns and even the World War Two, the World War One campaign. So I figured I'd go and see what other things people had available. And I saw there was a Fallout one. And I was like, that's interesting. I mean, I know a little bit about Fallout lore. I don't know like a ton of stuff, but probably enough to do this playthrough at any rate. So this mod is actually really good. So if you look at it, this takes place right before Fallout New Vegas. So as you can see, we have two superpowers at the moment. Caesar's Legion, I'm not going to be saying Kaiser's Legion, sorry. And the NCR, the New California Republic. So we're playing as the Enclave. So I've gotten kicked out of my territory, and this is what we've been left with. All I have left is the Sierra Army Depot. I have 11 manpower and my total population is 14,000. So that's kind of one of the interesting things about this game is they rescaled populations to be realistic in the Fallout universe. So if you're the Enclave or the Brotherhood of Steel, you're almost never in this game going to have more than 1,000 manpower at any given time. It's just not going to happen. You have virtually no one to recruit. The question is, though, do you need that many people? The answer is no. Because you're relying on power armor, it doesn't really matter. You'll see once we get into battle. There'll be wars where, like, I lose 30 manpower. Once you get more manpower, though, like if you conquer enough places, the nice thing that happens is you get you can start training some auxiliaries, like some decent quality infantry to back up your power suits armor. You also, because you're the Enclave, you get Verity. How do you pronounce it? Vertibirds? Vertibirds? Whatever they're called. You get those too. So you're pretty much the only faction in this game that starts with anything resembling. Oops, I forgot to turn that off. I just gave myself a couple technologies. Okay, so one cheat I will be using is political power, because political power is a terrible, terrible mechanic that never should be put in the game. And as the Enclave, you need it. And you'll see why you need it. Because there's a certain event stream. I'm just going to turn on conscription. There's an event screen where you have to keep hiding from the NCR. And it takes a lot of political power to do that. So I do have Verdi Birds. I have no industry. Oh, no, sorry. I have 2 industry at the moment and nothing else. So one of the things about this mod is that it is a lot more role-playing. So you have a massive tree for most powers. I've tried playing Western Brotherhood of Steel and Enclave so far, and they have 2 massive ones. And normally there's like different ideological decisions you can take. So as the Enclave, you can do one of 2 things. You can either take the hardliner approach or the reform approach. I briefly tried the hardliner approach. It is extremely hard. It's very, very difficult. Because you can't recruit native population, so you're dependent upon just whatever you can get. And it's difficult. And I don't think you really have an option to seek accommodation with the NCR. Let's see here. So you can do that, or you can go down the reform path, which is what I'm going to be doing. So we have reform, and this is the opposite. This is where they're trying, at least to a certain extent, to change. I guess you could say to become more liberal or to become more open, but as far as the Enclave goes, being liberal and open basically means not wanting to commit mass genocide. So, going down this branch, there's two paths you can take. You can either take the Rebuilding America path, or you can take the Nevada path. And I'm going to be taking the Nevada path because Nevada is the best one. Because this one's really hard. To do Rebuilding a Nation, you have to defeat the NCR. And you don't get access to any of these like good events until you've defeated the NCR, and that's just very difficult. The one game where I was able to defeat the NCR was because how did I beat the NCR in that one game again? Oh, the Brotherhood of Steel was also attacking at the same time, and we kind of double teamed them. Okay, so I'm going to just start reading these. Years ago, we managed to escape from the destruction of the main Enclave fortress at Navajo. The manner in which we survived can still be felt today. So we're going to start with that. So I do have some Verity birds. I don't have enough manpower to equip any of them. So at the moment, I'm limited to 4 units of Enclave power armor and 1 unit of auxiliaries. So let's just begin. So modify government. I'll do close air support. So I've already taken the liberty of installing reformers, so they will help my faction grow over time. Because, yeah. Political infighting, Enclave scientists. I'm just going to give myself some political power. Like I said, I'm preserving the right to use political power cheats. Let's see, loyal reformer. Okay, I'll take that guy. So the ideology in this game is very different than how it worked in the other games. So there's intellectuals. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, there's intellectuals, oligarchs, neutral, the people, and rulers, or which is kind of the non-aligned. How deep are the lesser factions like the tribes? Okay, sure, we'll take a look at the other factions. Let's see here. I have no idea who Heaven's Gate is. They have an okay tree. They don't have a huge tree, but they have a decently sized one. Let's see here. The Brotherhood of Steel is a huge tree. Caesar's Legion, of course, is a big one. What was the question? The dead horses. Let's see. I think they just have a generic tribal one. Let's see here. The Yakuza, I think, the Yakuza have their own. Vault City has their own. But the Enclave, the Brotherhood of Steel, NCR, and Caesar's Legion have the biggest. Oh, let's see. How big is their tech tree? Their tree is huge. It's not as big as the Enclave's, but it's huge. And I like that a lot because I like the fact that they made this a bit more of a role play campaign. So there's not a ton I can do at the moment because I have no manpower, I have no air base, and I have no factory. So I just kind of have to wait for events. All right, I should start researching something. Let's see, what can I research? So there's a completely new tech tree that's been developed just for this. So we'll talk about it a bit as time goes on, but let's see, what should I start out with? So that's kind of neat. So they have different types of warfare now. They completely replaced it. So there's conventional, asymmetric, refined, and automated. So I'm going to go with refined because I'm using power armor. Let's see here. And I'm going to start researching some brigades. Is this worth picking up HOI4? It might be. Okay, so here's some of the role-playing stuff. Years ago, we managed to escape from the destruction of the main Enclave forces at Navarro. The manner in which we survived can still be felt today. I'm going to take escaped... See, this is difficult because, okay, additional troops would be good, manpower would be good, but so would Verdi birds. I start off with a couple, but not very many. I think I'm gonna take the veterans and get some more soldiers early on. No national focus set, so I'll take election. I'd say this mod's probably worth picking up HOI4. I mean, they're still developing it. It's still fairly early, but yeah. Let's see. Retool machinery. By the way, this is kind of a chill stream, so if anyone wants to ask me questions or something, I'm more than happy to answer. You should have taken the Verdi birds. You can build them, so I'll build some later. I have a couple. Okay, in the lair of the bear. We are on the very borders of the NCR, a rogue nation occupying American soil. I love how LARPy the American soil. We cannot deny that they would destroy us if they become fully aware of our existence. Luckily for us, the bear is blind, weakened by bureaucracy, infighting, and an ineffectual leader. With the right efforts made, we can hide under the very nose of the NCR until we're strong enough. Oops. Oh, I didn't realize that was still going. Strong enough to reveal our plans, but we cannot keep them in the shells forever. It will become harder and harder to conceal ourselves. Okay, so this is a mechanic the Enclave gets, which I'm just going to ignore because I don't like. We'll deal with that in a second. Okay. So you can support either Douglas Granite or the Purists. I'm going to go with the Reformists because the Purists are stupid. I know we should be edgy and LARPy and stuff, but no. Let's see here. Okay, so I love how LARPy the Enclave is. Like, if you look at the Rebuilding America tree, you have, like, where is it? There's, like, Department of Manufacturing, Department of Energy, Department of Agriculture, Department of the Interior. So what I think I'll do is you have a segregation tree that you eventually get to do. So what I will probably do is... Okay, let's see here. Our president. Let's see. The Enclave Reborn, a nation reborn. Interesting. Okay, so there's a segregation tree. So what I'll probably do is I'll expand the definition of human, but I won't accept ghouls or super mutants because I don't think it would be that bad to accept like the wasteland people. So I don't know, or we'll see. I don't have to decide this until later in the game. Okay, so Sins of the Father. I'll take this just because it gives me more non-core manpower. Let's see. I spent my days playing with my pit boy. So let's see here. Brotherhood, Caesar Scouts. I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to go with this because this gives you the charismatic trait, which is useful later in the game. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so that's done. So we can start the reform tree. If we are to rebuild our once great nation, we must reform ourselves and our principles. Sadly, many of the reformist elements have already deserted in the last few years, leaving mostly the devoted and the fanatical. We will have to tread carefully in our efforts to reform the Enclave into an organization fit to restore order, justice, and democracy to these United States of America. So if you go down the Purity faction, you can, one of the events is eliminate Congress. Just get rid of Congress. Sure, I could try one of the other ones if you guys want. If people like this, I can always do another one later on. Okay, so doing reformists. And I mean, I'm just like not LARPing for a minute. Okay, so what happens now, and this is what I'm cheating to get around, is one of the problems the Enclave has is the NCR will detect you after a certain amount of time, which goes up over time. And different events increase or decrease the amount of political power it takes to prevent the NCR from detecting you. So, I don't know. I don't want to play with this, so there we go. I'm going to hide from them. Planes and reserves. So I have a couple Verity birds. I can build them. That's the thing. I just don't have any factories at the moment. Hearts of Iron 3 is actually really... Sorry, 4 is actually really good. It just takes a while to figure out. Like, it's a lot better than Hearts of Iron 3. The biggest issue with 4 is the naval combat is fucking atrocious. It's really bad. Let's see. Hardness, breakthrough. I'll take that. I need to maximize the abilities. Yeah, so they also have... I can do executive orders, which aren't important at the moment. There's scavenging, which you can get resources with. And then they have holotapes that do the... tell you the backstory. HOI4 was just very, very stripped down. Your thoughts on the New Vegas poll? I haven't looked at it in a while. Like I said, I sided with the NCR. Like, let's be honest here. If you had to choose between living in Caesar's Legion and living in the NCR, I think most people, if they like would admit it, would say, yeah, I'd probably rather live in the New California Republic. Okay, so Legitimacy tutorial. For the first time in centuries, our authority has extended beyond core Enclave members. Considering our previous interactions with these newfound citizens, our previous interactions with these newfound citizens could easily be misinterpreted as attempted genocide, proving ourselves the legitimate government will take time and effort. Certain choices we will make increase or decrease our legitimacy. Higher legitimacy comes with bonuses to our rule. It allows for new choices in our focus tree. Low legitimacy will come with penalties until we find a way to keep the Wastelanders loyal regardless of their opinions. Okay, so the biggest thing is legitimacy impacts the amount of non-core manpower you can recruit, which is extremely important. There's like nothing more important than that in this game. Okay, let's see here. So there's a couple different things I can do to start out with. I'm going to, I think, start out with trying to... I should probably go to New Reno first. Okay, we're going to go to New Reno first. So, New Reno will become the new capital of the city. So yeah, the intellectual faction. I don't. It seems pretty reasonable to me that if you're going to LARP as the government of the United States, you might want to actually try to reestablish a government, as opposed to just LARPing on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean. I think Mr. House is also a good option. I've done a playthrough I sided with Mr. House. I like him a lot too. The issue with the Legion, as people are pointing out in the chat, is they weren't really developed very well. So they just kind of come across as always chaotic, evil, bad guys. I just never found them very sympathetic, but I don't like slavery, so I know I'm a cuck in that regard. Oh, wait a minute, I have an Air Force? I have an air base? Okay, cool, I can deploy... I have, like, a couple, so I'll deploy... can deploy like 20, which is quite a few actually, if you think about it. There we go. Oh, no, I can't deploy that many. Right, I have 20 Verdi birds now. Yeah, so air combat in this game is really weird. Or it's not really weird, it actually makes sense. So you assign air groups to a general area. So in this case, all of Western Nevada. And because these are ground attack aircraft, they'll attack anything in that general area. Let's see here. I'll do that. Missing equipment production. I can't build equipment. I don't have any factories. Okay, healing powder. Okay, so we want maintenance and ambulances as early as possible in this game because I'm the Enclave, so I have no manpower. I will do laser rifle. Okay, transmission from troll warrants. Let's see, when do I have to do this? Hide activities from the NCR. Hold small speech. Okay, so City of Crime. Oops, okay, I should have read that. Reno, a wretched hive of scum and villainy, offers both a secure base of operations on the margins of the NCR and a chance to show the world the benefits of Enclave rule. Okay, so I'll start that, and I'm going to... I'll start the political purge tree. Okay. Let's see here. So I can go to war with New Reno. So you're about to see power armor here. This is going to be hilarious. So I only have 8 divisions. I have very, very little manpower. Let me see. What is my total fielded manpower? Okay, I have 1,300 guys. Okay, so here we go. Look at this war score. It's hilarious how the war score works for this because it's so low. New Reno casualties. Let's see here. I actually have a decent sized army, I guess. Okay, so you guys can just move in. As you can see, they did a good job. Like, they have proper models. Like, they have the proper power armor with the Enclave symbol on them. So, yeah. Anyways, just gonna... This shouldn't take very long. You're kind of OP as the Enclave, but I like this more as a role-playing game. Yeah, so like look at how low these casualties are. I have taken no casualties, and they've taken 23. I like just how they deal with the low manpower. So because I have air superiority, I have Verdi birds, which are really good because I have some aircraft, whereas pretty much no one has aircraft. I don't think I have fighters though. I think Verdi birds can only attack ground targets. Okay, so I have one, so we will take all states, and there we go. New Reno has been annexed, and I actually have factories now. So we're going to start making power armor, support equipment, energy weapons, and gunships. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Okay. Music Vault found. Promote patriotic songs. I'm going to go with patriotic songs because I need war support. Okay, so I now have New Reno, and New Reno will become the capital of the state of Nevada once we get it up and running. I actually have some factories now, which means I can actually build some shit, which is nice. Excuse me. Okay, so I'll start to get a bunch of events soon. Presidential victory speech. There we go. Right, that gives me some stability. So now I get to go through and decide the fate of the various people who made up New Reno. I don't know very much about the lore involving, because I didn't play Fallout 2, so I don't really know about New Reno, but you're producing support equipment. So I can make a change. So I need Teton for that? That's bullshit. Okay. Low manpower. It's always going to be low manpower. Let's see. I can deploy a couple more aircraft, I guess. Okay, I'll deploy all my remaining vertibirds. Okay, let's see here. Okay, a shared dream. Yeah, I still have severe... Until I can purge the opposition, I'm going to have pretty bad... Okay, a shared dream. Dealing with the rights. Some say the Wright family has spent the last few decades building with one hand and destroying with the other. But compared to the other families, this makes them almost redeemable. Mr. Wright's vision of a peaceful and stable Reno is not entirely incompatible with our own. Now, you get a whole bunch of shit later on, so I'm just going to kick him out and take his factories. Because you get, like, too many advisors later on, more than you need to deal with. Okay. Now I actually have arms factories, so I can start building shit, which is good, because before I couldn't. Let's see here. Wild promises, arrange disappearances, demote purist scientists. I don't have quite enough power yet to start making purges. I will soon, though. Dealing with bishops. I'm gonna miss out on those factories because otherwise it's a pain. Who was the best Fallout? You should play it. Okay, let's see here. I'll speak to them. Oh. Okay. We gain grounds to justify a crackdown. I don't want to do a crackdown just yet. Not until we have this up and running. Demote purist scientists. Okay, I want to read this. Duncan Harrell says, in order to ensure the security and continuing stability, the wasteland will be reorganized into the Second American Republic for a safe and secure society. Okay, let's see here. So we're going to do that. Oh, did I miss that? Wait a minute, did I, what happened to that event? Did I just exit out of it? Fuck. I hope I didn't. Oh, whatever. All right. And we will start researching pipe machine gun, I think. Okay, and some remnants showed up. Okay, and they're purists, so the purist faction gets a bit of power, but that's okay. I need manpower. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Okay, let's see here. Old allies. The Salvatores have been useful to the Enclave in the past, dealing with us in order to expand their own influence in New Reno. Perhaps they could be useful once again. A puppet ruling New Reno in our name could help make the situation in the city less suspicious to any outside observers. He can rule as a puppet. We will rule New Reno now. He can live under house arrest. I'm going to go with that. I already have advisors. Okay. The new capital. Okay, so I'm going to go with that. So hopefully once that happens, I'll have actually access to... Okay, I have a bit more manpower now than I used to. All right. Alright, so a bit of this game just early on is just waiting for stuff to finish. So I do have some factories now, not a ton. I'll eventually get some events that'll start. I don't really have civilian factories. That's the big problem. Once I have civilian factories, I'll be able to start my economy, getting it fully going. Okay, and I'll just start queuing stuff up. Infrastructure. And I want some... the new capital. With the city of New Reno now fully under control, we are now governing over a significant number of wastelanders. Since we cannot install Enclave members to every single position of influence in the city, some wastelanders have been exercising an amount of power within our borders. I'm going to go with letting them... because, okay, I'll go with... we should encourage this. New Reno's slaves. Some say it's slavery with extra steps. I'm going to go against slavery because that raises my legitimacy, and I just personally don't like slavery. Okay, so let's see here. The first brick. With New Reno under government... With New Reno under government better than drug-running gangsters, we can develop the city. So we're going to go with that. To start off with... yeah, so just build some... What's in Texas? Texas isn't really in this, to be honest. Disturbing reports... I really don't want to do anything that'll lower legitimacy. Because the thing with legitimacy is it affects the percentage of people I can recruit. No division in basic training. We'll get to that in a minute. So I will research... I'll research some air doctrine, I guess. Oh, oops. Okay. Okay, the NCR. The Hydraulic Republic. Interesting. What are the easiest ways? Okay, I'll introduce that. Hold a small speech. I'm just seeing what all is popped up on screen. Okay, let's let that finish running. Okay, there we go. First brick, and I'm going to prioritize civilian infrastructure. So I can start just getting everything built and up and running. Research finished. Automatic laser rifles. Good, 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 good. Let's see here. What do we have? Decryption will be good. Let's see what people saying in the chat. Unfortunate news. Okay, this is funny. Unfortunately, it appears some of our soldiers have taken up the practice of blasting a pre-war song on their Verdi birds during routine patrols. It does not need explaining how this behavior is reckless and needlessly conspicuous. Nonetheless, our popularity must be considered in these uncertain times. Crack down on this behavior. Just ask them to turn it down. Just ask them to turn it up. I'm going to ask them to turn it down. Cafeteria incident. I don't really care. See, they did a really good job with this mod. There's a lot of stuff to do. Yeah, like I said, once I get 15 factories, I can start massive economic development. I have a decent amount of production. Like, I can produce enough to outfit my small army. So the first thing I need to do is I need to add in a medical chem company for trickleback. So how divisions work in Hearts of Iron 4 is you design them. So, yes, Archon and Plagues and playing the Enclave. Okay, so you have the main army. So these are your troops. So in my case, I have access to light robots, which are this game's equivalent of armored battalions. And for infantry, I have power armor battalion, infantry, machine gun brigades, and militia. So those are kind of some basic ones. It works very different in the actual Hearts of Iron 4. But then you get support brigades. And the support brigades are independent of the divisions, so they don't affect the movement speed, which is really useful. So if you have a tank brigade, for instance, if you have a tank division, you can attach a artillery brigade to it, and the artillery brigade will not slow down the production of will not slow down movement. So I'm eventually going to go with laser battery support probably, and I definitely need a maintenance company, which will reduce the amount of power armor that breaks down because we can't afford that. Let's see here. I don't know what transports do in this game. Let me see what they do, because I've never used a transport in this. So let me just see. Okay, air supply. Okay, it has air supply. That's interesting. All right, civilian infrastructure. There we go. Enclave police. New Reno didn't need police when it was run by crime families, but establishing the rule of law could go a long way towards giving the reunited states legitimacy in the wasteland. The Enclave can create a police force to be a model for America. No, I'm not going to do the America thing, because that's obnoxious. Okay, secret language. Sorry if I'm not talking about too much other stuff, but this is kind of a story-driven game, so I will, if people ask me direct questions, I'll respond to in chat. Let's see, construction. And I want... New Reno is just going to be for civilian industry. Might as well have a fuel silo, a synthetic refinery, and some arms workshops. Enclave police. New Reno is safer than you'd expect for a city with no police force, but that's because it's maintained by a gentleman's agreement between the families. We could incorporate many of their mobsters into our new police force, or we could start from scratch with police trained by Sergeant Dornan. Oh boy, this is going to be a tricky one. Should I let the psychopathic crime lords police the city? Or should I have a competent military officer train the police force? It's going to be a tricky one. Let's see here. Oh, oops. Oh, shit. I didn't realize the game was running there. Okay. Let's see here. Prepare expansion. Okay. With New Reno secured, the rest of Nevada lies open to us. The technology of Vault City, the manpower of the tribals, and then there are the Yakuzas, a threat to our flank. Oh, there we go. That was one day. Okay, prepare expansion. So next we're going to invade the Yakuza. The Yakuza pretend to be heirs to Japanese traditions, which would be fine if they weren't on American soil. I love how LARPy the Enclave are like so fucking LARPy. I love how they pretend like this is pre-war America. Okay, there we go. Reference manual. Smoke signals. I love like all this shitty primitive technology they put in here. Like, I actually get pretty good research rate because I'm the Enclave. But, yeah, like woodworking, water pumps, generator, potato farming. I think I've seen the Peaceful. I heard about it. I didn't actually watch the Peaceful Hitler playthrough, which sounds kind of interesting. Veterans. Okay, good. So I'll put them along the border. This should be a very easy war. Once again, we have power armor. So it's like the British used to say. They may, at the end of the day, we have the Maxim gun. At the end of the day, we have power armor. But yeah, power armor is produced really slow in this game. At least at the moment. It's only 2 a week, but it's not like I have a lot of manpower anyways. Eventually what I'll do is I'll probably start making some auxiliary divisions, which will be infantry, but they'll be infantry and I'll provide them with some extra shit. So, yeah. Okay, let's see here. Okay, sorry, I'm going to use one other cheat. I'm going to give myself some XP. Just because one of the things I hate is to change your division format, you have to spend military experience. So I'm going to add a maintenance company because I definitely need that. What's reliability? Okay, reduces the chance of breakdown. Good. And I'm going to add, I can add machine guns or laser batteries. I'm going to put in laser batteries. There we go. And for Enclave auxiliaries, I'm going to have that and machine gunners. And laser batteries. Okay. So it'll start producing that stuff now. That should make my divisions much better. Enclave, PA infantry, rapid response. Do I have to upgrade them all separately? Oh, I guess I do have to upgrade them all separately. Let's see here. I never could figure out if I can just change them to into being a different division format. One of the annoying things in this game is you can't just change all the division formats at once. You can only change some of them. So I'm just going to make them the same. That's probably the easiest way of just dealing with this nonsense. Okay, maintenance company. All right. So I don't have to deal with having multiple different ones. Design is too expensive. There we go. Not anymore. We'll go down the new ally pro NCR path. Yes, I will be going down that path. Is it possible for tribal nations to win wars against power armored armies? I'm sure it is. I think it's partially you just get really big bonuses because you're the player team. Missing equipment production, add in pipe machine guns and laser batteries. Oh no, not common energy weapon. I want laser batteries. Automatic laser rifle. There we go. All right, so now that the guys are in position, let's just draw up a battle plan. So in this game, they kind of did a compromise between HOI3, where military combat was 100% automated, and what's it called again? And Hearts of Iron 1, where it was completely manually controlled. So now you just give a substantial amount of direction to your armed forces, which is pretty good. So I'm going to declare war on the Yakuza. And this is going to be another curb stomp. Oh, yes, execute plan. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so we're fighting the Yakuza. Let's see, national focus while we're dealing with this. I can't start the United States. Okay, if I get a little more military XP, I can start the Department of Defense. I can do infiltrate the NCR. Okay, infiltrating the NCR sounds like a good idea. No, I don't know anything about Senator Mike Lee. He sounds like a cool guy. Reagan riding a raptor sounds awesome. I know we're supposed to dislike Reagan, but it really triggers liberals whenever you talk about, whenever you praise Reagan. So, I mean, I don't hate Ronald Reagan. He just, I think he kind of set back the conservative movement in a lot of ways by making it all about individualism and freedom and that kind of thing. So, okay, so I've taken 0 casualties yet. Once again, I have the advantage of having air superiority, which is really good, because pretty much no one in this game, other than I think the boomers and maybe the NCR, has aircraft. I don't know where people get this like idea that like Nixon was some super edgelord. He was like a member of the NAACP. He was also the president who started the EPA, which, I mean, the EPA kind of has morphed into an ungodly abomination, but I kind of feel any legitimately I think any legitimately, like, I don't know if you want to say conservative or traditional or nationalist person, I think you need to have respect for the environment and the protection of the environment as being part of your platform. Because if we're going to talk about, like, an organic society and, like, different cells of the body that act together, etc. The land that your nation is under um, is part of your tradition, is part of your culture. I mean, your nation is both blood and soil, and you want to make sure that that soil is as well preserved as possible. So I actually do like things like national parks and endangered species lists, and I think anthropomorphic global warming is just that. I don't really think anthropomorphic global warming is a thing, but I would like emissions to be reduced regardless because I think it's bad for the environment when you burn massive amounts of fossil fuels. So I don't like the way they're going about it. I think the way of dealing with the environmental problems is more nuclear power. But it's an issue I don't know. It's kind of sad that it's become a left right issue. Like, should we rape the environment or should we not rape the environment? Like, that shouldn't be a left right issue. It's also sad because there's this website called Holoverse, and Holoverse has the political and religious views of different celebrities. And for like half the celebrities on the list, they call them liberals or left wing. And like, why are they liberals or left wing? And they're like, because they're part of like some environmental, like save the seals or like save the Siberian tigers or something like that. And I'm like, how does that make them like a liberal? What's like necessarily liberal about not wanting to have like your nation's national animal get wiped out? I don't know. I've always been I like environmentalism. I think the thing also you have to keep in mind with most environmentalists is they are anti um they're anti-human, they're anti-technology, they're anti-progress, they're anti-life. They aren't really for the environment. If they had a choice between saving the environment and exterminating humanity, they would take the second choice. If you look at environmentalists, they aren't willing to do things like nuclear power. Another thing is they are the Yakuza are a Venice nation, but we know they're really Americans. They just need to be reminded. Like, I know it's kind of like off in the future, but I don't. There's lots of cool ideas people have come up with to try to decipher other ways of doing environmental reform. Like one of the ones that I've seen is electricity. I think fusion power is something um, we should be pursuing. I think there should be a lot of funding going into fusion power because if I think if we could figure it out eventually, that would be great. An interesting idea that Japanese came up with is satellite based solar collectors, and they found out a way to like do a low intensity microwave beam and to like beam the electricity from the geosynchronous satellite back down to earth, which is sounds really cool. I like that idea. Let's see here, make a deal. Duncan Harrell says thorium power. Now, an interesting thing to keep in mind when you're there's this like meme that the first world does all the world's environmental damage and like pre-industrial civilizations don't do any. I mean, if you look at the countries that have done the most damage to the environment over the last, I don't know, 50 years, other than China economy strong, they're all in Africa. Most African countries have destroyed like 80 to 90. This is not me like exaggerating. This is, I remember reading about these when I studied African politics back in university. But something like 80 to 90% of Kenya's forests have been destroyed in the last couple decades. The level of environmental devastation that the Africans have carried out is truly mind-boggling. They've like desertification has become a massive issue. Like the Sahara is growing really quickly because these fucking morons chop down all the forests and like slash and burn the land. And guess what? That didn't really help. That didn't make the countries better. Now, this is another reason why environmentalists are fucking shitheads. Because one of the things they like, we can't allow people to use electricity. We can't allow people to use light bulbs. We can't let them use gasoline. Well, you know what happens if you don't let people use light bulbs? They burn wood. And then, like, it's just... They're just so fucking dumb. Well, the thing is, they're not interested. Okay, to be fair, they're not. It's not that they're dumb. They're just not interested in like solutions. Like, the truth of the matter is, in Canada, we need to have pipelines. We just do. The nature of the country, the need for Alberta to export oil to Asia and America. We just need a pipeline. That's just kind of a fact of reality. But the issue is because of the way environmentalists are, they can't just like try to come up with some technology or some safety procedure that would make there be less of a chance of the pipeline. Because what happens when you don't have pipelines is they drive it in trucks, and that's much less safe. That's much worse for the environment. But they don't want to. I just don't even like really know what should or can be done with Africa at the moment. The problem is if we just pull out all foreign aid and leave them to their own devices, they're going to destroy the planet with just the amount of environmental devastation they're doing. Also keep in mind, like, when was the last time that a first world like Western country like did something to the scale of China or like Africa? In Canada, we have all kinds of forests. Like if you go to like on every street in every residential area, every house has at least one tree that's planted by the town. At least where I live, and then in the nicer parts of the country. Toronto is full of trees. Every street has trees on it. There's all kinds of parks and green spaces. A lot of the land is protected. We have huge provincial parks. The environment's doing pretty good in most first world countries. We've really cleaned it up over the last couple decades, and I think a lot of the destruction has been stopped. Back when I thought I was more of a man of the left, what I actually supported doing in Africa was bringing back colonialism and just having Africa be like run by an international coalition of like the Chinese and Europe. And they would just run it and ruthlessly suppress corruption and that kind of thing. Because honestly, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'd love to just leave Africa and just say, fuck off. We're not going to bother with you anymore. But the amount of just destruction to the planet's ecosystem they can do is, yeah. Okay, so there we go. We've enforced American culture. There we go. I get a whole bunch of additional production facilities. I don't have a high enough war support yet, so we're going to go do the NCR. So, okay, so we will do Enclave Radio. Yeah, there's all kinds of green belts in Toronto. In Toronto, like where my friend used to live, he lived like 5 minutes from, I think it's the Don Valley or whatever. There's just this massive like green space along a river. It's there's a lot of, and they've regrown a lot of it, and we have really good like conservation management programs now. Like there's a place I used to go camping almost every year. I don't know if any Canadians have heard about it. It's called the Pinery. It's a provincial park that's on Lake Huron. Now the cool thing about Lake Huron is the water there is so cold and rough, mosquitoes can't lay larvae on it. So there's no mosquitoes there. And you can swim in Lake Huron. And Lake Huron, because it's so big, it has really large waves. So you can go out and like, there were days when I went there that I'd swim in like 6 hours in the day and just ride the waves, as it were. Those were good times. But the point being, like they regularly have like culling of the deer to try to maintain a healthy population, stuff like that. So I don't know. The environment's not doing too bad, at least in our countries, which I'm happy about. As I said, if you're going to talk about blood and soil nationalism or blood and soil conservatism, the soil is an important part of it. I mean, like I'm Canadian, so if beavers went extinct, if grizzly bears or polar bears went extinct, if moose or elks or loons went extinct, what would that say about our national symbols? I don't know. I think biodiversity has an inherent worth. It's it really saddens me whenever species go extinct. I guess for me, I don't know how much I've ever talked about this, but one of the things that really makes me more religious was when I was young and I watched. Actually, it's interesting because I was kind of almost an atheist at the time, but I watched BBC's documentary Planet Earth, and that actually made me substantially more religious. You know me, I believe very strongly in evolution, but just the sheer beauty of nature, the sheer beauty of creation, just all these fascinating, wonderful creatures that we share the world with. Like I remember for me, there was one. It was a fish that lived on the side of a waterfall, that could climb up a waterfall in like this cave in the middle of nowhere, and it was just really really impressive to me personally. And I just to a certain extent I find God in beautiful things like that. Once again, it's not that I don't believe evolution exists, but to my mind, I mean, God isn't a magician. He doesn't have to pull a completed universe out of a hat. It's to me, it's more profound and more beautiful if he'd set up these laws of nature in motion and let them produce these things. But that's something I've really been on for like the last couple of years. Is I've been really interested in reptiles, like snakes and that kind of thing. There's a channel Clint's Reptiles that's really good, and Snake Discovery's pretty good. And I've just been watching them a lot, and because reptiles are such cool animals. Like people are always like, "Ew, gross." Like snakes can go for up to a year without eating. I mean, how neat is that? That's fascinating. Like, what are some other things I learned? I didn't realize this, but like, I think a third of lizards give live birth. It's really interesting. But no, if I had have gone into maybe like another field, I would have probably liked to go into biology, because I find biology really interesting, particularly animals and that kind of thing. Yeah, I love going to zoos. I remember when I was in Chicago, the zoo there was really good. So they had a bunch of tigers and they had a bunch of gorillas. I kind of like gorillas. I don't like chimps. Chimps are disgusting animals. Chimps. Chimps are not pleasant animals. We'll just say that. Let's see here. Enclave radio. I'm just trying to see how to... Maybe I can't do that quite yet. Yeah, if I was going to get a lizard, I kind of want to get a blue-tongue skink, because blue-tongue skinks are pretty cool. And you can feed them dog food, which is pretty neat. Well, like, our kind of place is talking about how Trump is saying that America's full, and but the media is showing all these pictures of like massive of like farmland and agricultural land and that sort of thing. Whether or not a country's full like really depends upon a lot of factors. Some countries are underpopulated to the point that they can't properly exploit their natural resources, or their society just doesn't function properly. That's very common. There's other countries that have the opposite issue, where they have too much people in too small an area. And whether those things are a benefit or a curse really depends on how people manage it. Let's see here. What was I thinking? What was I talking about again? Yeah, oh, sorry. So, like in the case of Japan, Japan is probably overpopulated. I know we're not supposed to say that because the birth rate, etc. But Japan is largely pretty overpopulated, to be perfectly honest. So, what'll probably happen there is because the population's so high and cost of living is so great, once they eventually go about, once it drops by a couple 10 millions, I like gorillas and other I like some other monkeys. Chimps are just disgusting creatures. Uh, Gorillas are a lot more chill. What was I talking about again? I keep losing my train of thought. Yeah, but sorry, in the case of Japan, once the population falls by, I don't know, 10, 20 million, the birth rate will probably go back up. Russia is a country that's underpopulated and has pretty much always been underpopulated. They can't really make adequate use of a lot of their land. America actually probably has a pretty decent population size. Because, I mean, it's a trade-off. It's sometimes if you have more people, you can more effectively exploit your country's resources and also have a bigger army, a larger tax base, that kind of thing, build more infrastructure. So there's trade-offs to everything. In the case of America, though, they probably have a pretty decent-sized population. Some countries, like with extremely dense populations and no natural resources, like Singapore, can do a really good job. Whereas some countries that have massive natural resources and a sparse population could do terribly, aka most of Africa. I mean, if you think about it, the wealthiest country on earth may very well be the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. in terms of just how much resources it has, because it has oil, it has diamonds, it has what's it called again? Cobalt. It has all these extremely dense stuff. Generally speaking, though, I think the issue is, I think kind of the modern era and the idea of having your country like completely flooded by like random muzzies and like savage people from the third world is like historically there was immigration in like monarchical societies and in the early modern period. Like in the case of my family, my mother's side are Volga Germans, and Catherine the Great invited them there because they had the skills to, because they were being persecuted in Germany for being Mennonites, and B, they had a skill set that was very helpful for the sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Yeah, for their skill set, and because they were being persecuted, and because Russia's underpopulated. So Russia had a large number of German immigrants, but they kind of kept to themselves. They paid taxes, they farmed and cultivated the land. They weren't taking anything away from the Russian people because the Russian people wouldn't have been using the land anyway. So there was no real reason for them to come in. They also didn't really have any issues with here, I'll research Department of Defense because that gives me an extra an extra research slot. So I mean, like that wasn't a bad thing. Monarchs would often try to import a community, like they try to bring in a bunch of people with a certain skill set, like maybe they're watchmakers or jewelers or craftsmen or something, and they try to get them to come in to build up a local industry. The thing was, the idea of immigration being like 20-30% of your population outside of the colonies is just, I don't think that really has much of a precedence in history, particularly in such a large period of time. Like the migration period in Rome lasted a really long time. Like it lasted several hundred years for all those people to settle within the Roman Empire. So let's see here. I can probably, once this is done, I can probably purge the purists. Yeah, I think I'm getting close to that. Okay, so I can go down this path. All right. Clockwork Prince says, "What's up? We playing the Enclave?" Yes, I'm playing as the reformist faction. We'll get back to the story a little more. I'm just doing some building some stuff up. Building something in Minecraft, as Davis Arini would. We're just having a nice, comfy Thursday night stream. It's been a long week at work. Everybody's just kind of chilling out, enjoying some Fallout, enjoying me rambling incoherently. Many Latin American countries wanted European immigrants. Yeah, and that worked out pretty well, particularly with regards to Argentina and some of the other countries. Like in Canada, even when we had Japanese immigrants, there weren't that many of them. Most of them were productive, and they just integrated into like society. Like most Japanese immigrants in in Canada, just married white people, and now they don't really exist as a separate population anymore. So, I mean, you can take that as a good thing or a bad thing, but that's kind of I think better than that. It's funny because my grandfather really hated Chinese, like he despised Chinese people, but he liked Japanese people. So like some of his best friends were Japanese, but he really hated Chinese people. For those of you who don't know about Canada, there is a place in the Greater Toronto area called Markham, which is where my grandfather was from. And Markham has gone from being like 90+% white to being like 80% Chinese in the span of like 20 years. Markham is no longer multicultural, it's now monocultural to the point where yeah, so there a lot of the signs are in Chinese only. It's basically just looks like China there. I mean, I guess a wealthier version of China. I guess the only real difference is I think a substantial number of the Chinese convert to Christianity, so it's a little better in that respect. It's interesting because I worked in schools a couple times in the past, um, in parts of the GTA, not in Markham, but in some other parts of the GTA where there's a large Asian population. And say what you will the Chinese, about Asians, they do invest very heavily in their children. I think it's the most, I don't know if redeemable is the right word, but one of the more admirable things about them. Like, whenever I was there in the morning, all the Asian parents would come up. Their they'd have their kids. Their kids would be like all neat and tidily dressed. They drop their kids off. They would always be involved with like they'd always come to parent teacher conferences. They donate money. They do bake sales. Um, I think they go way too far with the amount of like extra homework and shit they put their kids through. I don't know how helpful it actually is, and I kind of think like I don't know, let the kids kind of be kids, let them goof off a bit. But at the same time, I respect them for investing so much time in their kids, for being so involved in their lives, and viewing it as so important for them to succeed. It's interesting. I think in Japan, something like 95 to 98% of children are born to married couples. It's not a thing really in Asian culture to have children to unmarried couples. I think that's one of the reasons that actually it's interesting because when I was reading, I think it was Tom Sowell. I forget if it was Tom Sowell or Dinesh D'Souza, but they were talking about not exactly race, but just racial outcomes in America. So their thesis, which I think is semi accurate, is that part of the reason why black people are in the state they're in is because they don't have intact families. I mean, there's lots of other factors associated with this, be they biological or cultural. But I think it's true. If most black boys had fathers, I think their community would work out way better. And it's really sad, and that's kind of one of the things the civil rights movement brought about, and that's one of the things that the Great Society brought about, because the black family had been very strong throughout kind of segregation, and almost as soon as that stuff started happening, it fell apart. All the fathers left their families, and all the mothers went on welfare. And it's a really bad state because when you're a I'm not saying like there wouldn't be a lot of problems still, but just if you have a son like you're a black woman, you have a son who's getting into rap music. I don't mean to sound like a grandpa here, but like he's getting into rap music, he's wearing shitty clothing, he's hanging out with bad people. I think it's hard as a woman to go to him and to tell him to stop. Just not just physically, but just there's a certain type of respect. Not that you don't respect your mother, but that a man has for another man. And having a male there to say, no, stop being a degenerate, go to school, stop doing drugs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there to be a positive male role model, I think is critical. Not critical to just for this simple sake of standing up to them. And I think as a male growing up, it's really good to have a father figure who is there for you, who just works for a living. Like seeing my father go to work every day, even if he didn't want to, even if he was tired, because he believed it was his duty to provide for his family and just in general to contribute to society, is one of the single most important things that ever really happened. I think that made me a much better person. It made me really, I don't know how to describe it, but that example is very important. And if a boy grows up without the example of a responsible male adult figure, it's very hard on them because they need that. They need that like a plant needs water. Let's see here. It's the 500 years anniversary. I'm going to say America will always fight for freedom. No, I haven't seen Subversive. Because this was an argument. I forget who's the other guy. I'm sure someone will put their name in the chat. Who runs Alt Hypothesis with Ryan Falk? Because he got into an argument with Sargon. Because Sargon blamed um, black criminality on fatherlessness, poverty, and hip hop culture. And obviously, Sargon's being a bit of a boomer here. But I don't know. I find it hard to believe that, like, a culture that. Sean Last, thank you. I find it hard to believe that a culture that, like, empathizes, like, being a gangster and a thug and stealing shit and doing drugs and, like, all that kind of behavior. I find it hard to believe that like, really, that has no impact on crime rates. Uh. Yeah, they released. It's like a separate mod. Okay, should I compromise with the NCR? I will be compromising with the NCR. No, we will not integrate with mutants, and I will seek accommodation with the Brotherhood of Steel. Okay, so that's done, so I can start consolidating power. Let's see here. Oh, by the way, what's your take on Full Metal Alchemist? Oh, okay. So I don't know. You probably all heard the I'm gonna butcher his name, the whole bullshit involving Vic Mignogna. Is that how you pronounce his name? Vic Mignogna. Um, so Vic Mignogna is a voice actor. He's been in the business a really long time. In particular, he's known for being the voice of Ed Elric from Full Metal Alchemist, among numerous others, not of all of which I'm familiar with. But he's gotten Me Too'd. So Vic Lasagnas. It's funny. So he's gotten Me Too'd. I think 3 women simultaneously came out with the exact same story about how he molested or raped them. And anyone who knows Vic is like, this is not the way he's like. This is not what he's like. So yeah, people have been very like, we're really upset about this. And basically, I think like none of his fans were on board with, like, none of his fans like bought into this. They thought it was bullshit. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind about Vic Mignogna is he is a very devout and publicly devout Christian. Like, he's done gospel music and, like, religious music in the past. He talks a lot about his faith. When his fans ask him to do I think he also says he doesn't like gay shit or something like that. Like he doesn't like gay fan fiction, or something like that. Anyways, he sounds like, from what everybody said, they've like said he's a really nice guy. So they're trying to ruin his career. So How do you pronounce his name? Rakita? I think it's Ricotta. So Ricotta Law, who's a guy on YouTube who does legal advice videos. He was kind of he has his own thing. He's kind of, I guess you could say, like a kind of a boomer conservative a bit, but he's very tolerant. Like he'll let all kinds of different people go on his show and he'll be polite to them. He seems like a really nice guy. He has 4 kids. His voice, I guess it's just because he's from Minnesota. Ricotta Law, thank you. I guess it's just because of his voice. I thought he was gay actually for a while, but he's just from Minnesota. That's just how people from that part of the country sound. Kind of like how people from some Canadian provinces sound. Ricotta. Anyway, so he was like he felt really bad for Vic, so he started a Kickstarter campaign. No, sorry, a GoFundMe campaign called Vic Kicks Back, and I think the original hashtag was Kick Out Vic, so his version was Vic Kicks Back, and basically the whole thing is about is to raise money for his legal defense fund. I actually went here. I'll post a link to it because I actually donated. Okay, I didn't donate a lot. I donated $10. But if anyone wants to donate, be my guest. They started. It's for his legal defense fund. So. So they managed to raise $125,000 so far. It's confirmed the money is going directly into an account being used to pay for his legal defense. Apparently people have also sent in huge amounts of discovery stuff, like phone conversations, emails, all that sort of thing. And like if any of this shit actually goes to court, he can beat the shit out of them. Like Ricotta Law went on for like an hour or two and explained it. Like keep in mind, some of these women before they posted their stories posted, "I want Vic Mignogna's balls on a silver platter," and they said shit like that, and that kind of makes your claims seem less legitimate. Dr. Henry returns. Okay, cool. I get Dr. Henry now. So I will replace him with Dr. Henry, which will lower war support but help other stuff. But yeah, I hope he gets through it. Honestly, it's like the only reason they're going after him is because he's a heterosexual white Christian male. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest here for a second. With all the degeneracy in that industry, all the fucking like dumpster fires of human beings like Digibrody, really the guy they go after is him? Yeah. Digibrony. Just so FMA, just asking if you've seen it. I've seen, I guess, about half of it. I've seen half of Brotherhood. I was in an anime club back in university, and we had a couple marathons of FMA Brotherhood. So I saw pretty far. I'd say about maybe 2/3 of the way through FMA. I liked FMA. My issue is I just found some of the characters annoying. Like I really hated Winry. I found Winry extremely annoying. I found Al kind of annoying, to be honest. I really liked Roy and Rizza. Rizza is best girl. Fight me. I liked Roy and Rizza a lot. I liked Hughes before his unfortunate smelting accident. I liked Ed a lot. I liked the Führer because he's the Führer. I don't know. It was good. It's a good show. It's a good show. I liked FMA. I'm not as big a fan of it as like a lot of people are, but I still I like it. I think it was well done. Purge the scientists. I also like Scar. Scar is based. Scar is super based. So if we look at this, Caesar's Legion continues to grow. Caesar's Legion should have a ability. Should like have a succession crisis issue. Wow. Where when Caesar finally dies, stuff falls apart. The twin mothers. Wow, this looks incredibly LARPy. Holy shit, this is long. I've seen part of the earlier version. Oh, that's funny. Simulated internet friend said Sabat, and for a second I thought he was talking about the Sabat from Vampire the Masquerade. Oh yeah, they've announced Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. They're making a sequel after all these years, which is awesome. No Chance has a quote from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. That's got to be one of the greatest RPGs ever made. If you guys haven't played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, you're missing out. It's really fascinating. World of Darkness is some lore I'd like to read more into at some point. It's really interesting. I'll speed this up a bit. It is going to be paused, you're right, but it's such an innovative game idea, and they really were able to carry it out. I remember Bethesda, CCP, the people who made EVE Online, promised for years they were going to make a World of Darkness MMO, which actually sounds pretty good to me. Like, that actually might have been a decent MMO. I'm trying to think what MMOs have I actually played. There aren't that many, to be honest. Oh, no, well, I played a bunch. I mean, for any length of time. I think the Old Republic is the only MMO I played a lot of. I played a fair amount of what's it called again? World of Warcraft. I just went through it one time because I thought I had to go through it at least once in my lifetime. And this was after they put in the update that let you level really fast in the older game content. So I played through pretty much all of World of Warcraft, at least the first expansion or two. I thought it was okay. World of Warcraft has not aged very well. I will say that. It has not aged well at all. Okay, good. I'm building my civilian factories now. Okay, there we go. I assassinated the leader of the opposition. So the reformists now hold absolute power. It's time to finish the Great Purge. And go on. That's because SAO is kind of based. And I'm going to maintain that Sword Art Online is kind of based. I don't care what anybody says. Let's see, arrange disappearances. Okay, reformist faction is now 100%. So I can get rid of these with some better people. Let's see. Army offensive specialist. Army offensive. You know what series I'm kind of sad just kind of fell off the face of the earth? I miss Italia. I wish they were still making Italia. I really liked Italia back in the day. I get that there was a lot of like homoerotic stuff in it, but that didn't really bother me as much because it was like, A, it was played for laughs, and B, it was kind of reflective of the relationships between the countries. I never really felt it was like super propaganda, I guess, for that sort of thing. It was mostly just kind of played off as a joke. Hitalia was fun. I think the funniest thing about Hitalia is they'd often have like really obscure references to shit. Like there's stuff in there, like, and you know how much I love history, that I had never like even heard of. Like there's this brief moment in the actually it's not that interesting. I think one of my favorite ones was England's like 1,000-year-long quest to kick France in the balls. And it said every war that France was involved in, and it was like France versus Austria, Hungary, Prussia, and Britain. Britain just kept poking his head in. Okay, so we have two decisions. We can go the American dream and attempt to fight against the NCR. Or I can go with Nevada is home. Although the Enclave's forces have traditionally been on California and restoring the United States, some argue we should focus on securing Nevada and working with Americans across the wastes. Some sort of League of American States may be more viable than invading everywhere New Victoria to the Pecos colonies. That sounds like a good idea, so I'm going to go with home is Nevada. Yeah, Hungary is true waifu material. I agree. I love how her and Austria were married and Italy lived in their house together. Yeah, I like how it's very obvious that Holy Rome is Germany as a kid. His and Italy's relationship doesn't really bother me. Like I said, it's just a joke, to be honest. Enclave defectors flock to the Legion, taking the forced evolutionary virus. Let's see here. The anti-integration faction. Okay. I'll allow them to have their voices heard. Because that's what we're all about here, letting the people have their voices heard. Yeah, my other issue with Italia is there just weren't enough female characters. It's funny with Russia and Belarus, like how Belarus is obsessed with joining with Russia. So she's like a yandere towards him. And she's like, I want to become one with you, brother. Home is Nevada. Okay. So we're going to start the Old World Party in the NCR. I like how they got Chris Sabat to voice Grandpa Rome. That was kind of a funny random one. It's funny how oh, what was it again? Oh, how the guy, I forget his name, Chris Vale, I think his name is, the guy who voices Trunks, voiced both America and Canada. Canada is like one of the funniest parts of it. Like how he looks like America, but he has the teddy bear. He has the teddy bear he carries around, and just everyone thinks he's America, except for France. I love America. How he's just obsessed with like being a big hero. The state of Nevada. Yep, so my country will change to Nevada from the Enclave. So, that's cool. I will have the first step to restoring the United States of America. I would become one with Belarus because she's cute. Ukraine's funny. Russia, I like how they made him like a violent, childish giant man. I thought he was pretty funny. Japan's fairly funny. Germany's really funny. I love America and its obsession with cheeseburgers and heroes. We're going to form a big hero to save the world. Italy's funny because Italy's retarded. I forget what Sealand was like. I think Sealand was like a copy of some other character or something like that. Something like that. Anyways, the state of Nevada. Okay. And this will be finished soon. There we go. The birth of Nevada. Welcome back to New Vegas Radio, the show with, if I may say so, the best looking audience around. We've received reports from northern Nevada that New Reno united the local tribes raiders in Vault City and is now calling them itself the Commonwealth of Nevada. Ain't that cute? Some folks say this is all an Enclave plot, but Governor Granite said Nevada merely welcomed all those who wish to live in peace within its borders, and to please report the location of any Enclave spies to his officers. Okay, so I'm Nevada now, so I'm going to sponsor the followers of the apocalypse. What do I need to do to reveal myself to the NCR? So yeah, I can get the NCR to recognize me eventually. Anyways, I think that's good enough for this session. I will say goodnight, and I'll